right from the start, the aim of the program, its goal, is for the awardees of scholarships to return to their country of origin to contribute to poverty reduction and sustainable development. So up front, as one of the key tenets of the program is just that. What is interesting though is how to create the link between this principle, this goal, and the actual delivery of poverty reduction and sustainable development. And therein lies one of the real challenges around programs such as scholarships programs which target individuals and have an expectation that there will be a flow on to the communities from which they come. At the level down from that, at the program objective, its purpose is, again, the stated objective in the design of the program, to improve capacity in priority fields, in disciplines, in socio-economic sectors and organisations by applying the knowledge that returning scholars bring back to their countries of origin. So right at the outset, you know, some of the preconditions, if you like, of the scholarships program is that is what it delivers, that it focuses on poverty reduction, sustainable development, through applying knowledge that people pick up as a result of postgraduate studies that they do in Australia. The methodologies, I guess, to try to establish that goal, or to deliver on that goal and to deliver on those objectives is to work through a quite rigorous targeting exercise. So as you can probably imagine, in a place or an area like South Asia, where there is close on 1 billion people, we can't provide, we Australian government can't provide every person there with a scholarship. So there is some quite rigorous targeting that happens. Although they're primarily targeting the public sector, they are open to some degree to the private sector as well. And within individual countries, they do look to specify where within the private sector that might be. The targeting that's, as we sort of work down the inverse triangle, becomes increasingly personalised then. So it begins to look at targeting potential leaders. And as it is an aid program, there is certainly then a focus on targeting disadvantaged and underrepresented groups. A lot of the focus in many of the programs is on the capital cities in the countries in South Asia. There is a deliberate attempt through AusAid and through an alliance with their respective governments to look to reach out beyond those to ethnic groups and to people in rural and disadvantaged backgrounds so that they get a fair representation as well as a fair crack at the opportunity to build their skills through study rather, and to return to their communities that are outside of Dhaka or Colombo or Delhi or wherever it happens to be. So how is the measurements put up to see how effective this is? Because we have to remember that we're taking out of South Asia for next year something like 230 or 40 postgraduate scholars who will come to Australia, and that's out of nearly 1 billion people. So how do you measure the effectiveness in poverty alleviation of those 120 when the vast majority of the billion are living in abject poverty? It's a difficult link to make, and I think we have to be honest to say at this stage that the link is tenuous. There is an expectation, I would suggest, that the people who return have that knock-on effect, that ripple effect to those with whom they work, and so the ripple expands as a consequence. But that's yet to be proven and tested. So there is a body of work for you keen researchers who are looking for areas to pursue about just how effective this is. Nevertheless, the measurement methodologies at this stage are tracer studies, and that's looking at the longitudinal study of people from the time that they're identified for a scholarship through their study programs, and then what it is that they do on their return. There's a lot of emphasis on really a subset, I suppose, of that, individual scholars' stories. of being able to see what people do when they go back and to tie that directly to development impact. And we're looking increasingly to groups like alumni associations, gatherings of past scholars, to be able to look at that as a sort of collegiate insight into how it is that that group of people on their return to their countries hang together and can, I guess, build up that sort of ripple impact that I spoke about before. The issues and challenges, as I hinted at a moment ago, a lot of the information around this is anecdotal. And we need increasingly to build the evidence base around just what the impact of scholarships programs are. And while my particular brief is in South Asia, I would suggest that's across scholarships program generally. And there is the issue that is inevitably there about the benefits that come from individual growth as a person goes on scholarship, relative to the social development that comes as the impact of that. I don't think there's any doubt that the people who undertake the study programs benefit enormously, personally, and their own professional development as a consequence of that, and the networks that they're able to establish as a part of the program of study that they undertake. Again, following back that to the social development within the countries that they came from is a body of work that is still worthwhile pulling together and to feed into the debate around what's achieved through scholarships programs. And I guess the other part that comes out of these issues and challenges is that the information available historically has many gaps in it. And that's not either a direct or implied criticism of organisations that have managed these before. But it's certainly, I think, a challenge for us to pull that information together, to plug those gaps, so that we have a sort of a consistency of understanding about the people who return to their countries, and that we can continue to interact with and get some sense of understanding about what their achievements are as a result of the studies that they've done.
Did you have any problems, or have been any problems with people coming back into the workforce after they've left for a year or two or whatever? And are they accepted back into the workforce? And are they given meaningful jobs? And generally, is it?
The answer to that is generally yes, but it does vary a bit from country to country, and there are certainly circumstances where a person is approved to take on a scholarship but no guarantee of their position back when they return. There is still a position somewhere in government for them if they're out of the public sector. In the private sector, it can be more difficult than that, where quite often people take their leave and it's effectively their own constructive dismissal to take on the program, the study program. But I'd have to say though, when people go back with a tertiary qualification to the South Asian countries, and that's at Masters and PhD level, the job opportunities for them anyway are pretty good. So it's not as though they're, for very long anyway, left out in the cold, cold snow. What is, as a sort of corollary to that though, Ian, is that, again, this is anecdotal, so, you know, it's interpretative rather than guaranteed factual. There seems to be, even when people go back into their previous work, that they sort of pick up from where things were before. In other words, it's as though the pause button has been there for whatever the period of time is, and it's released when they come back. And some questions then about whether they become immediately integrated back into a change agenda that takes advantage of the study and the learnings that they are bringing back. And that's an area, I think, where, you know, a research element, either through tracer studies or some other mechanism, would be useful to find out just what that acceptance of new learning is like once people do come back.